I can't hear you.
Oh Lord, I just did all that.
There we go. I was like,
Oh
I
my goodness.
probably saying
All right.
amazing stuff about what's going on, and didn't hear anything.
Okay, so we're gonna just do well. See, that's the thing about live streaming. Things happen. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened on my
yeah,
screen. It
yeah,
said
yeah.
I was unmuted, and then I got muted. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna do a quick reset, real quick.
Yeah, wind it back. Wind it back.
All right. So, well, that's embarrassing. uh, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Spotlight series presented by the Black Podcasters Association, where twice a week we shine a spotlight on a Black podcaster, creative or professional from our online community. My name is Corey Gumbs, and I'm the founder as well as your host today. If you're watching this on YouTube or one of your favorite social media platforms, please make sure you like, subscribe, or follow, and tap any notification bells to get alerts of our upcoming episodes. Today, we would like to welcome mindset and business coach, motivational speaker, author, and host of the C Plan Do Show, Mr. Garry O'Neal. Gary is born and raised in Baltimore and has worked with the youth for over 15 years with the Department of Juvenile Justice. He's a graduate of Morgan State and holds a master's in psychology. And Gary's philosophy of life and coaching revolves around three simple steps: seeing, planning, and doing, which I'm going to assume is the precursor or the basis of your podcast. So thank you, Gary, for being here. Glad to have you. We're going to just shoot right into it. Who you are, what you do, and how you got into podcasting.
Yeah, man. First, thank you for having me on the spotlight. I appreciate that, man. I love the group. The Black Podcast Association is just really what we need as far as podcasting, and just having a community and a collection of people to go over podcasting ideas, different things like that. So I really appreciate the opportunity. All right, so like Corey said, I am a professional mindset coach. Some people call it life coach. I used to call myself a life coach, but I just refer myself back to a mindset coach. And I'm also a business coach. And I started the C Plan Do Show just because I didn't like what was on the radio. I didn't like what I heard on the radio. I was like, man, this is just not really good. It's a lot of cake, and the cake is good sometimes, but every day it just really wasn't filling me. And I always tell myself, my clients, people that take a moment to listen to me that whenever you say somebody should, you should then turn around and say I should. So I said, hey, I should create a platform, where I can listen to the things I want to listen to. And that's why I started the C Plan Do Show. See what you want to do, plan it out, and then just do it. And I've been coming up on my 5th season now. I've had a lot of really great topics, a lot of great guests. And I just enjoy doing it.
Okay. So like when somebody comes to your show, what kind of content can they expect from you?
Oh, definitely. It's a really we're big on motivation, encouragement, and information and funny stuff. So let's take, for example, last season, the season finale was convert, and how we can convert what we have and what we want to things that we want to, go in and create. So like let's take, for instance, Rihanna. Rihanna has converted her status and now is a billionaire. We're never going to hear Rihanna's song again, Corey. That's it. So, just being able to convert. And again, you'll hear a lot of motivational stuff, inspirational stuff, educational stuff. And occasionally you see me do funny stuff and talk about candy corn that I do love, buffalo wings, and just a lot of things that I feel as though it makes it a very well-rounded podcast.
Oh yeah, I think I saw one of your videos on your YouTube. It was like a joke or something with some food and stuff. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
So you're you're going into your 5th season, or you just wrapped up your 5th season?
No, I'm going into the 5th season.
Okay.
So
And
I'm looking to probably drop that early February, and we're going right into it.
so for you, how many episodes is considered a season?
I usually typically do between 23 and 24. So I'm 23 episodes a clip. That's what I don't know why. You know what? It's 24. Initially, my first season, I said, you know what? How many am I going to do? And then I just thought about Kobe, and I was like, oh, between 23 and 24. And that's just been it for me. I really like it. It allows me a lot of balance, because a lot of shows, it might just be myself and we're talking about a topic. I have a lot of great guests that, you may not really hear about, or you may not really have thought about it, but just having a lot of guests, a lot of content, it's great. I love it.
Okay, so do you do like batch record or how well how many how many weeks or how do you release your episodes? And is it batch recording or is it you do it weekly or how do you
Uh,
manage that?
if it's just like with all podcasts, we sort of have to like if I have a guest on the show, we gotta sort of work with them. I do a lot of batch recording, especially if I have a series that I want to talk about. Some of them may just freestyle, not really freestyle, but just maybe a one that I really want to talk about. But I air weekly. Every Tuesday I drop. Some may be live if it's something sort of fun. I may do it live. Like I do a segment called Gary Tries It, where I try different foods and seemingly people want to see me eat really, really spicy stuff. So like that's one of the biggest episodes where I tried the one chip challenge. I don't know if you know about that, Corey, but
I've seen it.
yeah, a very, very hot chip that
Yeah.
people wanted to see me eat it, and I ate it. And yeah, it was crazy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
just
I air
I just want to interrupt anybody thinking about asking me to do it. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Corey, look, do it.
Nope.
I'll do it with you. I'll do it with you.
Nope.
I was supposed to do one. I was supposed to do another one. It was one like people were like, "Oh, keep doing more," and I was like, "Well, as podcasters, if it's something hot, we got to keep going with it." So I was going to do another one where it was like the world's hottest chocolate, and I bought it. But now I was going to do it the other day, and now it's missing from the house. I'm thinking like maybe one of the kids tossed it, or maybe my ancestors was like, "That's it, Gary, don't do it." Something I can't find it. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to buy another one. So it's nothing like you could buy in the store. So
Yeah.
I'll just do another one like that. But I do like doing batches if I can. If I have a guest to sort of work with them as far as their episode, when they can come on and we just go from there.
All right. Yeah, I respect your courage because if anybody who knows me has been around me with hot spicy foods, I'm the biggest baby ever. So I'm not even gonna. I know my limitations. So when people watch your show, it seems like they can get a mixture of different things. How has that combination worked for you with your audience?
It really worked well because I mean, just like with all podcasting, we want to make sure that it's engaging. And you don't want to just say, "Hey, who's your target audience?" And you're like, everybody. Like that's unrealistic. But I think that people that want to hear, motivation, they want to be inspired. It's been great. I've definitely had people at the end of the show, or they text me and say, "Hey, this is what I really needed. I really love this episode." And just being able to provide that for people, especially during these tough times. You know, People want to, if people are upset about things, you have anger issues. I did an episode on that. If you're stressed out or time management or even self-care, that's one of my favorite episodes where I talked about self-care and self-love, just all those different things. And based upon the feedback, based upon people watching, we always like to look at our analytics. People enjoy those shows, and then sometimes it is funny stuff. It might be current stuff, stuff on TV. So while I'm giving a variety of things on the show, people enjoy the motivation stuff.
Okay. So is your show or is it audio only? Is it a visual or is it a both?
Oh no, I'm out here. I'm out here, Corey. You can watch it on YouTube as well as listen to it. So I'm on all the favorite streaming platforms. I'm on YouTube. Everywhere.
Okay. What so you're going into your fifth season. You do about 23 to 24 episodes. So it's about 100 episodes, right?
Yeah,
If you
coming up on 100.
quantify it, right? So
Yeah.
congratulations on that.
Appreciate
That's a big feat. What would you say were some of your biggest challenges when you first got started?
I think the first thing was just booking guests because you would think in your mind, hey, you ask someone, "Hey, Corey, would you like to come on the show?" And you're thinking like they provide a service or goods or they're doing something that they would want to do it. And sometimes they're like, man, maybe if you're not big enough. I think that was probably one of the first surprising things to me that, a lot of people would sort of not be available to do it. And I was like, okay. And I think just structure, I love structure. So I think the structure was very easy for me, but just creating the content. You didn't want to just keep being repetitive, but just creating the content, which, usually once a month, I like to have a meeting with myself and just sort of map out the episodes. It might be something trading, just sort of mapping that out. And then saying, hey, well, how am I going to improve on the season before? What am I going to do differently? What things I need to buy? We already talked about that, on things that you want to look, the look, placement. But for the most part, I'm pleased to say it wasn't a lot. I think just sort of looking at scheduling with different guests is probably and content creation was probably one of the most, after you do like 75 episodes, it's sort of like, okay, well, what am I going to talk about now? But the great thing is there's a million things to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's, important. A lot of people in the group, they tend to come and ask about how do you get started, how do you make the content. We don't really have a lot of discussions about, for people like you who've been doing it for a while, how do you maintain the content, right? How do you stay inspired enough to keep producing quality content time in and time out that keeps your audiences engaged? So I think that's why I love this show, because we get to meet people of different different places in their podcasting journey. And sometimes we don't think about these, or we don't, when we're having discussions in the group or any other platform or amongst ourselves, we don't think about those things at times. So I'm glad that you brought that part up.
Yeah.
What are some tips or tricks that you do to help you keep your content from going stale?
One, I like to relate it to me first, and what I think, hey, what would I want to hear on the show? So I know for me, one of the first things that, that's happening now is that we're in this big resignation era where people are quitting. So I like to take what are things that are happening out that we can see, and how can I funnel it down into a lesson or some type of topic for the episode. That's what I do. As far as structure, just keeping the same structure. If the structure can change as far as like adding things, but if I was to show you some papers when I first started, when I was on an internet radio show, to now, it's pretty much still the same. It's just plugging and playing different things. Like if I have a guest versus if it's just me, if I have a commercial on there versus if I don't, just different things like that. But you said, what are some of the tips to keep it going?
Yeah, I mean, we have people watching. They may have some questions and be interested in how you keep the information. When they get to the point that you're at, how do you keep it going?
Yeah.
Where do you draw your sources of inspiration and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think I asked myself, hey, what are some topics that are out happening now that I think I can speak on? And that I think that people may want to know. Also, just asking people who are listening to you, hey, what would you like to see this season? But for the most part, I think that I do have a pretty good handle on some of those motivational topics that make it easy to just talk about. Like I said, people are quitting nowadays. People are quitting their jobs. People having issues with their jobs, or stress, or parenting, and those things. As soon as I think about it, I'm like, okay, that should be a show. And then I'll just start going into my process and just saying, okay, well, what's the structure of this content? I remember one, maybe last season or the season before, Future was having an issue and Russell Wilson was there. And I thought about child support. And I was like, oh, that should be an episode. Gathering the information, being able to relay it, and boom, we go from there.
Now, I'm going to go back a little bit. You said that you think of it from the perspective of what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Now, the beauty of the podcasting space is everybody has a different approach and different opinions on how or what is successful, right?
Yeah.
Some people might say, well, you should know your audience. Like myself, when I work with clients, I try to get them to understand who their audience is, who you're talking to, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you, it was, well, what would I like to hear first, and then shaping my content around that. How I think what I'm trying to get at is that it's worked for you, right? In that space. How do you get the feedback from your audience to let you know that what you like to hear is also what they like to hear?
Right. That's a great question. I think the biggest thing is just ask them. Hey, I have a core group of people who listen to the show, and just asking them how they felt about it. Now, outside of doing this, a motivational speaker, all those things, I'm a DJ. So I think a lot of times with me making content is content that I think will be relevant to people and not just making it about myself. Like it's certain things that I want to know about, like stress management, that I think is universal, but not something that I think is so particular to me that I don't think other people want to hear it. But for the most part, in addition to asking people, look at what people are talking about. We're all on social media, so we see what's happening. We see some of the different things. If I wanted to do an episode tonight, I know the first thing I would do was something that I saw trending about a pastor spitting in his hand and wiping on somebody's face. Yeah, I saw that. And being able to relate that to, I would make that and convert that to religion and talk about like, hey, where's the balance?
Right.
But I think those topics that I would enjoy, I think that a lot of people that are in my demographic want to hear about. We want to hear about money. It's going to be some people that don't know about NFTs. That's something that I'm interested in, and it's going to be, if I feel like I'm interested in it, I'm pretty sure somebody else is going to be interested in it, and just making it enjoyable, digestible, and entertaining at the same time. I always consider myself an info edutainer, information, education, and you got to entertain people.
How does that translate to you attracting the listeners? Like, like I guess like the NFT, right?
Yeah.
That's the hot thing now. People are getting into it, people are learning about it. And if I say, well, I see that there has to be somebody that has an interest in it, that's like I do, I'm gonna do an episode. So how do you attract that person? Because getting the audience, building your audience, letting people know your podcast is out there, it's a complicated process at sometimes. And sometimes we have subject matters that we want to talk about that are in general, we like, if we took that philosophy of, well, if I have an interest in it, there has to be somebody out there. But that's kind of like, sometimes you're just throwing it into the dark and seeing that you're going to get some light back, right? So
Yeah.
how do you navigate that? And is it because you've already established your brand, or is it just something that you learn if a learning, a trial and error process? How do you go about navigating that to attract those people?
I think it's both. I think one is just basic marketing. I think if you're marketing, you're marketing to your target audience and a subject that is trendy right now, it should work. If I use the hashtag NFTs, I'm pretty sure I get a lot of traffic that come from people. Unfortunately, it might be some bots, that are hitting me up in inbox. But if you're able, again, I'm not some guru know-it-all. I just think that, hey, here are the things that I'd be interested in knowing about. And I see that people are talking about it. So why not just create a platform where they can learn, not just a conversation, but maybe having someone on the show that knows a lot about it that interests people. It doesn't mean that every episode is going to be an episode that reaches everybody. If I talked about NFTs, that may not talk to somebody who cares about it. But if I talk about stress, might meet some more people. But I think it's just, like you said, trial and error. And I think it's part of the brand being strong. When you have a strong brand, people are still going to listen no matter what, and I think just being able to relay it, and not just only that,
right?
Not just that, I could talk about one piece, but then it might be another little appetizer. I like to call them appetizers on my show.
Right.
And being able to create that and just add different stuff. So not just one main course, but there are different meals, different pieces in that show.
Okay. So I know your philosophy is seeing, planning, and doing. So let's talk about that a little bit more and how that applies to how you do your podcast, like your podcast workflow. If you can give us some insight on that.
Yeah. I think, all right. So when I talked about the philosophy, see, plan, do, it's a very simple philosophy, guys. Mm-hmm. It's not very complex. It's simply envisioning what you want, seeing it, creating a strategy to get it, and then imposing your will to make it happen. You and I right now are podcasters. At some point in your life, you said, I would like to be a podcaster. And, I don't think Aladdin came, or I think that you just put in the work to be able to do this. Once I became a life coach, I was like, hey, I could do this. And I just already believed it. So in reference to doing the podcast, I just don't, I can't be a person that says, see what you want to do, plan it out, and then do it, and then not be able to apply the same mindset to me. So You and I just talked about different cameras. I'm going to go buy that camera. Not a problem. I think in reference to the show, not having some type of limitation. I think a lot of times with people I talk to, clients, people I know, we place a lot of limitations that are not real on ourselves.
Yes.
So I had a lot of people who said, hey, I would like to also be a podcaster. And I say, well, then do it. If I have a podcast, then logically someone else can have a podcast. Will it be as better as mine? Probably not, because my show was lit. But just being able to say, I can talk about whatever I want as long as it's structured and as long as people can digest it. I think that as far as just being able to do whatever you want, like I have this backdrop. I did that in like year 2 or 3. My first year I was on an internet radio show. Then I said, you know what? I want to transition from that. I want to do my own podcast. Now I got here. Then I wound up getting a studio. Easy. I'm not saying it didn't take work, but just like with anything, you want to grow your podcast. Hey, I want to get more members. I want to get more listeners. I want to be in a community that you, like somebody like you, created, that we can all network together and learn from each other. And I just think that all those things are just readily available. It does take the work. It does take envisioning what you want to do, then planning it out, and then just simply just doing it.
Okay. I have a different philosophy when it comes to podcasting about just doing it, but I do agree with you on the seeing and planning, and I really stress the planning portion because there is a level of planning that has to be done. I find myself, since I started doing this, sounding like my grandparents, right? If you want to do it right the first time, right? And in order to do that, we have to sometimes stop ourselves and say, let me just plan this out. Let me figure out the steps I want to take to get to this goal, or to accomplish this goal, or get to this outcome. So I think my philosophy is kind of slowing people down. I do the same thing. You want to see it, you want to plan it, and then you want to do. But I really stress the planning part, because a lot of people, the frustration that they feel, or the fact, or the failure that they may feel, as you say, the limitations we place on ourselves, right? That they perceive to be, it's just a matter of adjusting and pivoting and saying, okay, I did this, I made this mistake, but let me figure out how to solve this problem and fix it. Me, before I got started, like me being in this space right here, this was not part of my plan. I wanted to be behind the scenes. I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert. So this has been a huge, this is our 21st or 22nd episode. And I was thinking about it when I was setting up all the assets for it. I was like, wow, 21? Like, and I just started this in November of 2021. So it's just funny how things just ramp up and creep up on you.
Yeah.
And if you look at the videos, you see the changes that happen. That's because I started doing more planning instead of just jumping in. That was one of the first mistakes I made. I just jumped in.
Yeah. So, and I wouldn't advise anybody to just jump in.
Yeah.
Like you said, the seeing and planning, you can't, if you don't plan and you just do, that's going to be chaos.
Yeah.
If you plan but never do, or you see it and you plan it but you never do it, you're just daydreaming. And a lot of times there's a lot of dead squirrels in the road because people don't make a decision one way or the other. So if I know people right now that want to do a podcast, that I've sat down with them, I've consulted with them about the podcast, that they have a solid niche for their podcast.
Yeah.
They haven't done it. So you saw it, we talked about it, you got confirmation and validation that you should do this from somebody who's been doing it for a while. But what's the point if you never do it? But yes, you have to plan. There's no way. If you think, if somebody who's watching this, if you're just getting started, if you think that you can just show up and just start talking, your podcast will die easily, because one, you have too much competition. And two, if you're having people like Corey and myself who plan these out, who make it digestible, make it fun, make it whatever we want to make it. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to just, and I'm pretty sure you come across that too, Corey. I've been on people's podcasts and I'm like, well, hey, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Okay. And then I wind up sort of taking over the podcast, unfortunately, because this is what I do. This is what we do. So
your experience kicks in.
Right. And I'm like, dang, I don't want to take over, but we can't be having dead air. Or we can't be like, so how about those Ravens? We can't do that, and it's like, hey, we just go from there. So, Yeah, you have to plan. You have to see it. You have to plan it, and then you have to make a decision.
Okay. This is going to be the first time I ask somebody this question, and I think I'm going to really start adopting it. How was your experience growing up in Baltimore, being born and raised in Baltimore, helped you in the podcasting space?
Baltimore is very blue collar. Um, we're very focused on the work. So I think that for me, the first thing is just realizing it's very blue collar here. We're very to the grind, we're grinding, we're working, and you just go from there. The second thing, and it probably is happening a lot of different places, is that unfortunately, in some areas, your quality may not be the priority of someone doing something as opposed to someone's popularity. So I feel like, just like you're from New York and you got to say, hey, if you can make it here, you can make it everywhere. I believe that about Baltimore. If you can make it here, you can make it everywhere. And that's just in mentality, in just production, and just going from there. So I think just, here we're a blue collar town. We put in the work, and we just go from there. And I think that that's just something. My first episode ever was entitled I'm Baltimore, because a lot of times we have these negative thoughts about Baltimore. Even now, people from Baltimore have negative thoughts about it. I take the good with the bad. Yes, are there bad things that happen here? Sure. But there are a lot of great things that happen here. And I think I just apply that to just putting in the work, grinding, and just being able to relay that to my podcast. I'm almost at 100 episodes, and you and I both know that some people don't even last one season.
They don't even get to 7. They don't even get to 7 episodes, and that's one of my goals is to address that, because I think that's the white elephant in the room that a lot of people don't talk about, don't really address, even though they say, "Hey, this is what you need to do to get make a successful podcast." So I respect that. I have a lot of family and friends in Baltimore, so I know how you guys roll out there. So that's why I wanted to ask that, because I know, especially for us as the Black community, we do tend to, we have very unique experiences individually and collectively,
Mm-hmm.
especially since we face a lot of opposition and a lot of obstacles in trying to still get equality as well as shoring up diversity issues and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
it's important for us to understand that how the environments we come from shape how we attack or how we deal with our podcast, right? So
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to adopt that question more into these spotlights, because I want to hear, we have people from all over the country, from different cities coming on the show, and I'm like, I love hearing your stories and your backgrounds, and I think that's a big part of it. And I know you've worked in the juvenile services. Has that had any influence on the message, how you create your message and topics you talk about as well?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely. I think that just sitting there and talking with them, unfortunately, they feel hopeless.
Mhm.
And I think that having that, um, you know, they may have hopelessness on things that you and I may feel are just very easy. I remember having a group a long time ago, and this kid was I asked the kids, hey, what do you want to do ultimately? And I think one of the kids was just like big negative, and I addressed him. I'm like, what's up? Well, like, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, what I want to do, I can't do. And you would not believe what he wanted to do, and I said, well, just tell me. At first, he didn't want to tell me. I'm like, look, just tell me. He said he wanted to be a barber. And it took me aback a little bit, considering I've been working there for over 15 years, that his mentality on this is I cannot do something that I, for the most part, go every 2 weeks. And I said, let's just walk down the road of logic. Is there people who are barbers? He said, yes. And I said, why not you? And that why not you part is something that I talk about on the show all the time. Why can't you do what you want to do? I had a client earlier today that said she wanted to change her style as far as clothing. And I said, okay, buy something this week. And she struggled with that. Not because of the money. She struggled because mentally she couldn't believe it. And if you can, and Carter G. Woodson said, if you control a person's mind, you control their actions. Now he said it in a completely different capacity. But if right now any one of us says, I can't, your brain will say, cool, we don't have to think about it. And I just don't adopt that mentality. I just believe you can do whatever you want for the most part.
All right. I agree with that, and I love Carter G. Woodson. So yeah, it was definitely a different time when he said it, but it's still resonates no matter what you do. I mean, I've done it myself with the group. It's like I don't know if I could do this, and
here you are doing it
plenty of times. Where it's like, but my sense of competition and my little ego-driven stuff is like, nah, I'm not gonna let this beat me. I'm not gonna let this defeat me. And then
look at how amazing it is now. Look at how amazing it is now.
Yeah, right.
Great, love it.
Yeah, so it is important. Let me ask you a couple more questions, and we'll start winding down.
You got it. Go ahead.
For you, how do you, for the podcasting space? So because of COVID and what's been going on, we've seen a more influx of the podcasting or knowledge of podcasting into our community. How important do you think podcasting is for Black voices?
Oh, 100 million% critical. Because if we're thinking about, okay, take for instance, what platforms do we have and who is in charge of these platforms and what are they saying? And what they're saying, these major people that are in these platforms, they already have an agenda that may not align with you and I. And so we need those differences. We need those different collectives of opinions, of episodes, of things, because when we're able to do that, then we can get a different perspective. Look at what happens when a major podcaster says, hey, I take horse tranquilizer or horse medicine for COVID. And then you got people saying, oh, I'm about to do that. That's crazy. So we need to have our voice in using these platforms to create that narrative of different voices. So what people might hear with what you're doing is going to probably be different than what I'm doing, but the fact that we have a variety, the fact that we need to speak out, and the fact that we have an opportunity to speak on things and be educated on those things is what we need. We need people to not sort of, there's room for all different aspects. I'm not trying to be some old guy. I'm only 41. I'm not trying to be some old guy that says, hey, I don't like this type of podcast. But we have an avenue for different podcasts and to be able to speak to the Black experience and not be sensationalize drama, sensationalize violence, and do sensational weird stuff for ratings or views. We need genuine, authentic conversations that we can have, that we can use our platforms for, that can empower people to do things for us. Hopefully that answers your question.
That's a great answer, and that's part of the motivation of why I started this in the first place.
Yeah.
And you guys have helped, the members, you and all the other members in the group have helped really shape this platform into what it's become. And that's why I wanted to do the show and to give you guys, give back to you guys and really highlight that we have different conversations. We have different perspectives. We have the sports, we have the drama, we have the relationships, but we also have other things in regards to other conversations going on, whether it's in science and tech.
Yeah.
Anime or some of those other topics. So I think it's really important that we do use this platform or our platforms to show that Black people have experiences, but also not monolithic.
Exactly.
Right? We have different, interests and different viewpoints and different, sexual orientations, different gender orientations. All of that stuff plays a part of our community as a whole. So I really do appreciate your answer in having you here. I'm going to wind it down. So what does it mean for you since you've been in the group? What does it mean for you to be a part of the Black Podcasting Association? I know you spoke about it early, but
yeah, I love it. I love it because it's a place where I love what you said the other day. I love that you talked about that this is not just some type of advertising group. And I'm pretty sure, I know for me, I've been in groups where they just advertise spam, and you don't learn. In the group, we're able to communicate, we're able to connect, we're able to talk about different opinions, what's upcoming, because a lot of times people don't think about that. It's over 1 million new podcasts. and you see what different platforms are doing. We saw what Facebook is doing. We see all these different things, and having that community about it and be able to collectively have this community that are full of educated people, regardless of your experience level in podcasting, is really great for all of us. This is actually probably the only group that I really pay attention to, as far as like, you know, you get added for so many groups, but this is the podcast where, you know how you can turn off the notifications? Like, I actually have the notifications on for the group because that's really the content that I'm about. You know, there's plenty of other groups you could be a part of, but at the same time, this is what speaks to me. And I really appreciate you, Corey, being able to create the platform, to create the space for people like myself and other, whether you're experienced, whether you're new. Here is a space where people can grow and cultivate and be able to be the best, and not a me first type of situation where we're not, you know, again, it's spammy. You come in the door and it's spammy because you don't care about the group. So I like to see, and I love to see the growth. I mean, I've been here for, you know, maybe 2 months, 3 months, a little bit longer than that, and just being able to see how now BPA is growing into different spaces. I didn't even know about Twitter Spaces until the group. I was like, okay, well, we talk about that, or, you know, just I love being able to be to look at different stuff that we talk about in the group. It's great.
Man, that you know, got me feeling all bubbly inside, because sometimes you know you know, we all go through it. Sometimes you sit back and, you know, and I'm doing all these different things and I'm like, is this working? You know, is this doing the goal that I set out for it to do? And honestly, it's completely taking a whole new shape. But I think it's what you said is important. Like, if people can come in and learn, and I'm hoping that this partnership that we've gotten into with Afros and Audio just takes it to the next level. I know it's going to take it to the next level because they're doing great things on their side, and we've been doing some great things on our side. And now it's just, we're both in line. We're in line with the same viewpoints as we've been talking the past month. You guys keep hearing all the conversations about it. But I'm glad that you know that this is the experience you have for it, because that was one of the mistakes I made in the beginning, was letting the group just spam. Like, people were spamming, and I think I told the story a couple of times, but what really bothered me was one time I was going through the post and somebody asked a question. They were really in a spot where they were like, I felt like they were in a spot where they needed this question answered, and it got lost in all the spamming.
Yeah, see?
I didn't see it for like 2 months.
Right.
And I was like, this can't happen anymore, because this person, I don't remember the person's name. I don't know if they're still in the group, but for me, it was, that could have been a question that broke the camel's back, right? They're at this point in their career and they're like, if I don't figure this out, I'm done. And that's the part that, you know, and maybe it was just me creating a scenario, but that was what was important to me. And I was like, all right, we got to stop this. And then when I just really thought about it, you still there, Gary?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay. I'm just getting a little feedback from the connection.
When people start talking good stuff, we got to come in and try to mess it up. Yeah.
But I was just saying, like, that was a big thing for me. And then also I just looked at it like the like for like. I started thinking of it like from a podcaster's point of view. Just for me, the work that I was doing in the group, I'm like, do I have time to listen to every member's podcast? Do I have time to, as I'm creating content and focusing on bringing a good product to the group, do I have time? And I started looking at it from being in your guys' shoes and saying, hey, if you're doing all this content and you got your own personal life and you're working, when do you have time to really sit down and listen to like a ton of podcasts? Right. And it was like, well, you're basically preaching to the choir, right? You're basically, it's a waste of work, really. It's like, well, because somebody gives you a 5-star or gives you a review, that's not an honest reflection of your content, right? Yeah, I'm gonna get to it. Reggie out here telling me how I didn't listen to it in 10 years. I don't even think you've been out that long.
You gotta listen to it today, man. Hey, 10 years.
See, and that's the other thing with the group. I had to tell you guys like a couple interviews ago, like, I can't look at the comments sometimes because it gets distracting, and, you know, a lot of people like messing with me. So, but I was just saying, like, you know, the like for like and all that stuff really doesn't give you a true reflection of your audience, what your audience wants and stuff like that. So that was my main motivation when I really started thinking about that. I was like, nah, we can't allow this in the group anymore, because you're being dishonest with yourself as well about your progress and what you're doing.
And
So,
also, what's your agenda for going in the group? If you get in there saying post, watch my show, like you don't care about the group. You don't care. It's nothing wrong with saying, yo, here's my, here's what we talked about. But everything we talk, like, what's the purpose? Like, if I want to look at your podcast, I can just go to your podcast information. But I'm looking at, as a podcaster to a podcaster, what are you talking about? What content are you creating? Or what do you say in the group that makes me say, okay, well, let me check this person out. But if you're just getting in there, watch my show, like for like, hey, like, come on, man. That's not what it's.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that was my thing, is like creating a stand, like the push we're doing this year is like really trying to create a standard for ourselves as a community, as well as individually. And I think that's probably in line with a lot of work that you do in the life coaching space or the mindset space, is you have to create a standard for yourself. And that was one of the biggest standards that I was like, we got to stop doing this, thinking we're accomplishing something when we're really not, by just saying, here's just spamming all over the place. Right. It's a turnoff. It's bad enough we get spammed with a lot of things in the internet, and now, you're not, you don't want to spam your audience, right? You don't want to spam potential audience members. So, that's been the main motivation. But I think that's really about it, man. I really appreciate your kind words about, your experience in the group. It means a lot to me. Yeah. I don't even know how to put it in words sometimes, but I wake up in the morning sometimes questioning myself, and then I hear these things, and I'm like, you know what, Corey, you gotta keep going.
Yeah, you gotta keep going. And I'm an extrovert, so I got you. I'm an extrovert, extreme 10 extrovert. So anytime you need me to dump that gallon of, well, now no, because I got a lot of friends that are introverted. Anytime you need me to give you a coin, because I can dump a whole batch on you. Anytime you need it, man, I got you, man. I appreciate what you're offering. You're doing it.
All right, but before we go, man, we gotta let people know how to find you if they want to be a guest on your show. What your socials are. Like, let's get them to that part.
You can check. I'm on all social media platforms. If you type in C Plan Do Show, you see at the bottom over here what it is. C Plan Do, SEEPLANDO Show. You can also check out my website, cplandoshow.com. I'm on all the socials. Either it's by my name, or there you go. He look at that. See, look at the production. Look at the A1 production right there. So I'm on all. If you want to be a show, if you want to be on the show, if you want to be a guest on the show, hit me up and let me know 3 things you want to talk about. All right, don't just come on the show. Let me know what we're going to talk about, and you can get on the show. I'm going to start I'm actually looking at guests now for season 5, and it's going to be a really good lineup. And guess what? Be on there.
All right, and you have your business Instagram as well, so they can reach out to you, and if they want to consult with you as well. I'm big on you guys promoting yourselves on this show. So whether it doesn't always have to be podcasting. We want to talk about podcasts, but if you got other things going on, and this is part of us creating a self-sustaining community, right? Because we have you who does mindset coaching. That's one of the biggest parts of podcasting is conquering your own mind and getting over that imposter syndrome. So I really appreciate you having you here. We're definitely going to keep building in the group. Just going to close it out real quick. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for checking out the Spotlight. Make sure you tune into our next show coming up this Friday, January 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we'll spotlight our next Black Podcast Association member, Darrell Barnes of the All Things Black Podcast. So make sure you guys, again, follow, subscribe, or whatever it is on the platform you're on, is follow, subscribe, like the video, and click the alert bell so that you can be notified of our next upcoming episodes. Again, Gary, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you being having a great show. I'm gonna definitely rewatch this and learn some gems from what you said, and I'll talk to you in the group.
All right, man. See you in the group, man. Bye, guys. Bye, everybody.